Hey everybody, let's explore Jar Jar meeting Obi-Wan and the implications of that interaction.
Stay down.
Right away we see sudden, loud, dangerous explosions from a new type of enemy, shaking off some of the silliness of Jar Jar and reminding us of the threat level and regaining tension. While these Staps are defeated as easily as the plain battle droids, it's done in a slightly different way here to show the growing threat and to provide some more character building. Previously, we saw Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn both easily cutting through regular battle droids with no problem. Now in this scene, we see Qui-Gon do this again, but there's one change that sends a new message and keeps the threat level growing despite how easily the Staps were defeated. Did you guess it? Obi-Wan runs away. At this point, we've seen the Jedi face 4 enemies: regular battle droids with no threat, Staps only dangerous to Obi-Wan, and Droidicas and MTTs dangerous to both Jedi. This sets the pieces in place early on for enemy variety throughout the movie, and different threat levels. By this point we have a clear idea of each character's power level relative to one another, for the heroes and the antagonists. Battle droid beats normal person, Obi-Wan beats battle droid, Stap beats Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon beats Stap, Droidicas and MTTs beat Qui-Gon.
What's this?
Obi-Wan asking Qui-Gon, "What's this?" rather than asking Jar Jar, "Who are you?" is the first indication of Obi-Wan's most grievous flaw, another depiction of the Jedi arrogance. Obi-Wan and other characters dismiss Jar Jar's individuality and his needs to the point that he destroys the Republic.
Misa proposed that the Senate give immediately emergency powers to the Supreme Chancellor.
Just to find some care from others. And Obi-Wan and the others' later disregard for Anakin's individuality and needs also brings him to the point of destroying the Republic just to feel some care from others.
Good, Anakin, good.
Are you seeing the pattern here? The way this is set up is actually very powerful. At this point, Obi-Wan is our point of view character, and Jar Jar has been set up as an annoying fool and a burden. Upon first seeing Obi-Wan's insult and disregard to Jar Jar, audiences may be tempted to laugh and side with the Jedi Padawan. But this is the trap. By connecting with Obi-Wan and taking pleasure from his rudeness to Jar Jar right away, we're eventually forced to reflect on Obi-Wan's failings, and thus our own, and how we treat those different from us. It pressures us to introspect on the young Obi-Wan that we are, so that we can actively improve ourselves to become the caring Ben Kenobi we should all strive to be.
A local. Let's get out of here before more droids show up.
More? More did you speak?
That was another subtle example of Jar Jar's freeze mechanism when faced with fear. If you haven't already, please check out my video on Jar Jar's psychology for more information on the relevance of that.
Excuse me, but the most safest place would be Gonga City. It's where I grew up. 'Tis a hidden city.
The natural tendency of viewers is of course to get hung up on the way that Jar Jar says "excuse me." Squeeze me? Really? By having our focus naturally drawn to Jar Jar's silly manner of speaking, we partially miss the important information he delivers here. Jar Jar in many ways can be seen as a cautionary tale, in not judging people by their accents, dialects, mannerisms, culture, etc. Despite his silly outward appearance, the advice he gives here is very solid, and helps the Jedi a great deal on their quest. It reminds us to open our eyes and listen to people.
City.
Uh-huh.
Can you take us there?
Notice that only Qui-Gon responds to him. Obi-Wan is likely just annoyed by this strange creature, while Qui-Gon looks past the cultural and personal differences to see the value of Jar Jar as a person. Ironically, even Palpatine is able to do that, albeit for manipulative and corrupt purposes. This just goes to show the intelligence of both Qui-Gon and Palpatine, and the use of really listening to people, even when you don't think they'll say anything valid. It also shows just how far Obi-Wan will have to go before he can be as great a Jedi as he needs to be to finally match Qui-Gon's level.
On second thought? No, not really, no.
No.
Jar Jar changing his mind suddenly after offering help is very frustrating, and you can tell from their body language that both the Jedi feel that. But as you see, Qui-Gon patiently asks Jar Jar for clarification rather than just abandoning him or jumping to conclusions. You can even see that his first instinct is to look at Obi-Wan, as if to say, I know this weird alien is frustrating, but please be patient with me because we're going to get the best results if we do our best to respect him as a person. As a reward for Qui-Gon's patience and open-mindedness, Jar Jar is willing to open up and become vulnerable, expressing his embarrassing and traumatizing situation.
It's embarrassing. But, my friend might have been banished. My forgotten. The bosses would do terrible things to me. Terrible things to me if me going back there.
As funny as the line delivery is here, there's a lot of trauma to unpack in this statement. When Jar Jar says he's forgotten the bosses would do terrible things to him, that means he's repressed the trauma of his abuse there. Him shaking his head, one of the silliest and most nonsensical moments of the scene, also has some really dark undertones. The only other time we see this sort of action in Star Wars is from Boss Nass.
Be gone with him!
My forgotten. The bosses would do terrible things to me. Terrible things to me if me going back there.
Jar Jar admitting that he has memories of abuse from the boss, and even mimicking his signature headshake, as he says, terrible, reveals that dark connection. On the surface level, the Gungans seem like silly, harmless characters to entertain young children. But looking just a bit below the surface reveals a lot of fascinatingly ominous culture to unpack on future viewings.
You hear that?
Yeah?
That is the sound of 1,000 terrible things heading this way.
At this point, Qui-Gon knows that Jar Jar will face abuse or punishment if he returns home, but also that they need his help, and Jar Jar will actually be safer there. Qui-Gon is genuinely trying to help him survive in the kindest way he can, while still being firm. This is enough to cause Jar Jar to back up, seemingly convinced. Then Obi-Wan, being the young, headstrong, undeveloped point of view character he is at this point, takes it way too far, just out of meanness to the weaker life form.
If they find us, they will crush us, grind us into tiny pieces, and blast us into oblivion.
Ah. Your point is well seen. This way. Hurry.
Funny? Yeah, but in a dark humor sort of way. The Jedi Padawan, guardian of peace and justice, is purposely terrifying a random local just for fun, just because he can. This judgmental nature really comes back to bite Obi-Wan later, even after he's grown out of it. It also shows the flaws in Jedi training if one as old and skilled as Obi-Wan here still has this sort of mentality. If they're overlooking Obi-Wan's mild dark streaks now, no wonder they miss Anakin's more dangerous dark streaks later. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this deep dive interesting. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave a comment below with your thoughts on today's topic. And as always, think critically, be creative, and have a great day.